Hey, thanks for visiting DuckmanCycles VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. And we're back today with my 1956 Volkswagen Beetle, also known as Eleanor. And that's right, Eleanor is a custom chop top because Eleanor unfortunately saw some really nasty weather and was submerged under seawater for about 2 days during Hurricane Ivan. So I did the best I could to put the car back together with what I had, and whatever I didn't have, I made from old appliances. And yes, this car is rather interesting because it's been fabricated from a lot of different junk. And I put together, well, a pretty decent car. And she's a chop top. But anyway, I've been working on a custom chassis, as you know. And on this chassis, to finish out the rear brakes, what I needed was some custom brake lines. Because the brake lines that came with the kit for a stock Volkswagen Beetle, obviously aren't going to reach. Typically, the brake cable lines, or hoses I should say, are routed on the other side much closer, and it goes in up here somewhere. So, and actually this is probably even the wrong one. This is all stainless steel, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to make my own lines to get that finished out, because I didn't think I could buy any. And actually, I was looking, and I really did look. I was just going to buy two 944 rear lines in stainless steel, but all I could find was just, you know, OEM style, typical zinc-plated steel. And I don't want to ever replace them again. The only time I want to have to replace them is if they get damaged. I don't want them to get damaged either, but that's another story. We're going to go ahead and make some stainless steel brake lines for this car. Now, there's a special tool involved with this, and down below in the video description, you'll find a link as to where to buy this tool. Now, this tool is not a cheap tool, but it's a tool that properly crimps the ends for a Volkswagen to put on that European bubble tip that you see right here, which is a little different than the American double flare, which actually has the metal folded in on itself a couple times. Rather, this is kind of interesting the way it works. It actually forms a like a trapezoidal shape all the way around. So just kind of, I guess the best way to put it is it kind of pushes the foreskin in. And if it had a wheelie inside of it, it would poke out the hole. But anyway, that's what you're looking at right there. And what I have to do is I have to use the tool to make these tips, so that way I can go ahead and use this appropriate DIN-sized nut that goes on the end, and I'm probably using the wrong term for it, but it is a DIN-sized nut, and it will screw into either, in this case, the caliper, the brake line, or the master cylinder in the case it's going to go up front. But because it's going in the rear, it's going to screw into these two right here. The flex line is over here in the end. Yes, it is flexible. Somebody called me out on one of my other videos because they didn't see where I put the flex line. But it flexes here. Anything beyond that here is static. It moves with the suspension. It does not flex in any way. All the flexing happens there. We're going to go ahead and get this thing taken care of, and we're going to show it on video and demonstrate how it operates and how this works. And once and for all, we're going to close up the rear brake lines and call the rear end here, as far as the brakes are concerned, finished. And those are words you don't usually hear from me. I mean, you know, this car has been, oh geez, it's been about 2.5 years project. It'll be 3 years come next April-ish, somewhere in there. The Doodle Bastard, for example, has been almost 6 years, and the CR500, I've been playing in that thing out since I was a kid, so that's been like 20 years. 10 years on YouTube, roughly, but 20 years in the making. And the Pook Moped's even older than that. I've been working on that thing for 26 years. 26, and actually it's been done multiple times, but it keeps changing. I don't ever finish up with that thing. Well, anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, you should be liking them. Liking them is really important to me. It helps put my videos higher in distribution on YouTube. It shows them in the featured list on the right-hand panel. So the more you like my videos, the better my channel will do, and the better my channel does, the more money I'll make. And the more money I make on the channel means the more video time that I'll devote to it, which seems to make more sense. So as always, you guys, like, comment, subscribe. Go ahead and pluck that dingle bell down there next to the subscribe button so you get updates every time I upload a video. Don't forget to hit the Facebook group page, DuckmanCycles VW Garage. Join the group. There'll be a discussion on this project as well as others. And anything else you want to share. If you have a project you want to share, or if you've seen something on the internet that you think is really cool that you want me to see, that would be the place to share it. If you want to send in a question about a project you're working on, go ahead and post some pictures of it and go ahead and ask. If I'm not the first one to answer, one of the 400 other experts and my friends are the ones that are joining the Facebook channel. You guys are my friends, not just members of a group. You guys are my friends. We'll be glad to answer the question for you. And of course, when I get around to it, I'll be glad to chime in just the same. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching. And we're going to go ahead and roll that intro. Boo! Okay, I haven't made any videos with this, and I haven't even used it in many years because I didn't have a vise. So I actually got a vise set up just for this device here. But this is actually a bubble flare maker, and what it does is it puts that bubble flare on the end of a brake line. And that is a bubble flare. Now, I did this particular brake line earlier. This is the one that came from the manufacturer, and this is the one that I did. And my end actually looks much better than the one that came from the manufacturer of this particular brake line. Yes, I know there is no little DIN nuts on this line. That's not a big deal to me because this is just a scrap piece that I had that I wanted to try it on, just to make sure that I still understood how to use it. But with this tool comes two dies, and, well, I should say two die halves. And they are stamped as to what size they are, and this is a 45-degree end. This is the wrong one. I actually want to flip it over. Looking for the DIN. You see the DIN? And then, of course, you got to make sure that you have both sides matched. So you have a DIN and a DIN together. And then that's the side that's going to be facing into the tool this way. So you would drop this in just like so. And then you would take your brake line. This is going to be kind of hard to do with one hand here. We'll go ahead and set up the tripod. There we go. Now I'm hands-free. Thanks for sticking with me. What we need to do is we need to get that brake line, and we need to put the brake line into the die just like this here. Then you take the other half of it, and you make sure once again you have that DIN end facing the correct direction. Sandwich it all together, and close the little lid. It's not really a lid, it's kind of a clamp. Put the pin in it, and tighten this guy down just enough to make the line snug, and that everything is just in place so it's not going to come apart. Okay, you want to set the yellow OP, and I forget what it stands for. I'll have to go find the manual and read it. But this is what actually, when you pull the bar, bottoms the line out properly in that die. So you have exactly the right depth that you need. Then you tighten the clamp down on this, and make sure it's good and tight. Because when you go ahead and you start crimping the end here, if this isn't tight, that line is going to slip right out. Then, you'll see we're looking for the 4.75 millimeter DIN, and that's because that's the diameter of this line. It's actually, what, 3/16 I think it is actually the equivalent to metric, and there's a very marginal difference between the two. But you make sure that you are set in that position, so that way it closes into here. And you grab the bar, and you pull. Now this takes a lot of force on these stainless steel lines. If I was using a copper or a bronze line, it's actually really easy. If I was using just a steel line, it's a little harder, but the stainless steel ones are just incredibly tough to crimp. So I'm going to pull this, and we're going to see if this vise turns. I wouldn't be too surprised if it actually goes from the 45-degree angle it's at now to a 90. But it's going to take a lot of force. But you pull this bar until it stops. There it is, it stopped. Release. Open the clamp, pull the pin, flip the lid out, pull that off, and you get a perfect bubble flare every single time. Now what I need to do is I need to take this line and get it measured out to exactly the length that I need on the car. Then I need to slide my little DIN nut over to this side, put one on this end of course, once I've got it cut, and then crimp this end. And I should be able to bend it and contour it to fit the car. But I think you guys got the point, and this is, and I didn't know, but this is actually the right tool to use for stainless steel. So I bought the right tool the first time years ago when I got this thing. If you want to know where I got this tool, down in the video description at the bottom of this video, you can find a link to go ahead and buy one yourself. This is not a cheap tool. Like I said, when I bought it, I didn't know what I was getting. But apparently I got the right thing. And if you want to buy a tool and buy it once, after you do 4 sets of stainless steel brake lines on a car, this tool is going to pay for itself. So, yeah, if you want to crimp stainless steel, get the right tool, you know, as they say. So this worked good. Let's go ahead and get this brake line measured out and see if we can get these 944 brakes working in the rear on my Beetle. Okay, we've got to get that brake line from here under the trailing arm and then back up to here to the caliper. And I'm not a big fan of the way Porsche does this, but they actually run them under the suspension. And why I think that's a bad idea is because suppose you're driving home late one night and there's a brick in the road, and you manage to steer out of the way so you don't hit it with your tire, but it gets underneath and it clobbers your suspension. Where's that brake line? Well, it's running right underneath that suspension, and that brick hits the bottom of it, and it fucks your brake line up. I don't find that to be a great idea, but that's the way Porsche does it. Volkswagen even runs them up and over the top, but I don't know, running up and over the top here doesn't look like such a good idea because we're going to have an axle coming through here, and if I run it through here, with how low it's going to be, it could pinch against the bump stop. Yeah, I don't know what else is going to be a good way other than to go underneath, follow the Porsche route. Again, not a fan of the way they did it, but really don't know of a better way. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of flexible tubing, and we're going to bend it to the appropriate contortions, and then we'll make a mark at the end where it's going to be, and then straighten it out and lay it on a stainless line and cut the line to that length. Then we'll put our ends onto the line and then put all the bends into the line and set the contours, and lastly crimp off the end. And if that all works well, we should have a brake line on this side. Then we'll repeat the process over here. So let's see what we got. Alright. I think we're going to make it, looks like it's a little over 2 feet long. Okay. We're going to make our cut right about here. Some people say you're not supposed to use a pipe cutter on stainless steel because it's going to work harden it. But I mean, you can't cut it with a pair of tin snips because you're going to flatten it. But I have never found that this work hardened it in such a way that it was going to cause a problem, because even if it does, it only work hardens it at the very, very tip. The bubble flaring crimping tool there really doesn't do anything to that very, very end. It actually just pushes it in. All the bubbling happens beyond that. Okay, there's our 2-foot brake line. What I probably should do before I do anything else is and make sure that this is even right before I commit to it and put in all that work, or even cut a second one. I'm not going to cut a second one yet until I know that this fits. If this fits, I'll use the same measurement on a second line. In fact, you know what, I'll pre-measure it now, because once you bend it, it's going to be a whole lot harder to do. So you just take this line here and you just straighten it out. Yeah, I've got a little method to my madness here. I'm thinking I should think a little bit ahead. And these are, brake lines are something you do need to think ahead, because you don't put like the ends before you put the flare on, you're screwed. You got to cut the end off and start over again. Or if you start putting bends in it, you won't be able to slide the end down. So you have to think ahead when you're doing brake lines. Absolute necessity. Okay, we'll just make us a mark right here so we know what the length of this one was, in case we need to cut it exactly the way that this one is. Let's put these ends on in advance, as I said, because again, once you start putting the bends in, this end will not slide down. It'll get stuck on the bend. I'm going to put, well, you know, I really only need the one on there right now. But we're going to put that first bend in, and it's going to be a 90-degree bend over here, where it's going to have to go down. And I have this really nice tubing tool that bends a beautiful radius on these ends. So make sure that that end is down all the way, put it in the tool, and bend. Just like that. We have a beautiful, perfect 90-degree bend. Just like that. And like I said, you can't slide the end up that bend. So it was absolute importance that it was done now. Okay, now we need to get a measurement and figure out how far down we have to go before we have to 90-degree it back in the other direction. Guess I better get a tape measure for that. Alright. Looks like we need an S shape coming down right at 4 inches. So I need to start bending it, because it looks like it's bending on about a it's bending on about a 1-inch radius. So we need to come down to the 4-inch, so we need to actually start bending it right at 3. Take our mark at 3, put it in our tubing tool. Okay, here we go, just like that. And bend. Okay. That should now get it. Okay, then it needs a 45-degree bend this way, so it runs parallel to the wheel. Let's see, we want to run it kind of under where the CV joint cup is going to be. 45 it right about there. Okay, that's our 45. Now what this should do is it should go in this connection over here. It'll go down underneath the trailing arm. that run parallel to the wheel over here. They should come up and out. Wow, okay. I just impressed myself. Let's go ahead and take the camera down here so you guys can see. That brake line comes right underneath here, and there's a little plastic holder, which didn't occur to me, but I guess looks like there's 3 things that go into it. It's probably the low brake sensor. There's actually a little sensor that goes on the wheel that tells you when your brake pads are wearing out. There's going to be one for the brake line, and the third one would be for the ABS sensor. That makes sense. This looks like a Mickey Mouse head, so there's 3 different wires or connections that can go through that. Now what I think I'll do, because these holes are a little big, is I'll probably slide a piece of fuel line down over it and slip it up inside the plastic holder that's here, so that way it fits nice and snug. I don't know if that was a factory thing, if they came that way, or what the deal was. I looked at some photographs of this stuff, and after all these years, these cars don't all look the same, and I haven't found a contraption quite like that on anybody else's. Okay, I think that's what we're going to do. That's starting to look good. Alright, I've run that brake line up and underneath. You can see how it attaches up here, and it runs down along that trailing arm, and the good thing is it's not touching anything underneath where it's going to rattle against it, and that's bad news. You don't want these brake lines to rattle against something with vibration, because it'll actually wear a hole in them. And then your fluid leaks out, and then you crash your car. So anyways, it comes through here, then I have to make kind of a question mark shape on it. A 3-dimensional question mark at that. It has to actually bow out a little bit, then go up and into the caliper up here. So I don't think that's going to be too hard to make that happen. Let's see what I can do. Alright, we got that bent. I think I would have rather bent that a little further back. Now we have to just pretty much make a 180 right back into there, and then put a little twist on it. That pushes it back to where it needs to be. Okay, this line is actually just a little bit long. But long is a good thing, because you can always snip a little bit off the end. Remember that, ladies. Ah! Alright, that pretty much makes our line. And this little tip over here is a little bit long, so I'm going to have to cut the end off, probably about 1 inch or 2. But that actually was a lot easier to bend than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be a lot harder. That question mark I was talking about. 3-dimensional question mark. I don't really like the idea of it sticking out too much because it could hook something. Something could get snagged on it. Alright, looks like we're going to lose about 1.5 inches. Well, probably a little more than that. 1.75 inches, maybe up to 2 inches. Going to clip that right off at that mark. And then we'll put our little end on. And then it goes back into the tool. And we're going to go ahead and crimp that end. Alright, looking good. Looking good. Let's go ahead and cut this off. And then you get in here with a file and just clean it up a little bit. This one's actually not too bad. The other end had nothing wrong with it at all when I did that. Okay, we're going to want to put our little end on here, and we're going to have to straighten this line out just a little bit, because in order to get that end on to where it needs to go, and then still get that crimp on the end here, we're going to need some more meat sticking out that's straight. So I will have to straighten this out a little bit, and actually when you drop it into the tool, bloop, it'll actually straighten it out for you when you tighten the clamp down on it. Let's go ahead and get over there to the tool, and we'll crimp the end on that sucker, and then we'll put it back on the car, and I think everything will fit just fine. Alright, as I mentioned before, with this tool, you can actually use it to straighten out the end. It was not intended for that, but it's kind of a side effect, because once you clamp this down, it's actually going to squeeze the tubing straight. Alright, put this sucker in here. Just like that. Make sure we have our DIN end, that one, facing the right direction. Put that on there, close the pin, and then we're going to tighten this down first. And what this is doing right now is it's straightening out that line inside of there, and we loosen it back up just a bit. See, now the line actually pivots in there because it's straight. We push this back to op 0 again, tighten it down. Now it's exactly where it needs to be for the crimp. Change it to the DIN position. Just like that. Woohoo. Fail. Fail, fail, fail. As I said before, you have to think ahead. And I'm glad that I stopped for a second and looked at what I was doing, because I just made a mistake. It was about to become a mistake anyway. What I forgot to do is I forgot to slide that end on there first. Can't go crimping this on there you'll just find yourself cutting it back off. Alright. Snug it up just a little. Make sure that line is in there a little bit. It's not. There it is. Alright, hop 0. There it is. Now snug it up. Reset it to our bubble end, which is the DIN connector, 4.75 millimeters. Make sure everything is tight and pull. And remember, pull until the bar stops. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Okay, loosen this up. Pull the pin, lift the lid, and there's our beautiful bubble end. Ready to go. Just like that. Ready to rock and roll. The other end's already on there. I'll have to bend some of this 90 degree that was in here back into it, of course, because I had to straighten it out. Looking at this again, wonder if I should go in the opposite direction when I do the other one. No, you know what? I think I'll stick with what I'm doing. Yeah, I'll stick with what I'm doing because I know what I've done, and now I'm an expert. And I should be able to do the second one easily. Let's go ahead and install it on the car. Alright, tweak it just a little bit by hand here. And there's our 180 back into it. And the way I've bent this, it should keep that loop from being so big and sticking way out for picking up tree branches and 2x4s and whatever else is on the road. Alright, wrap this sucker up underneath. Run it right into the stainless steel braided line over here, which is our flex line. Route it back through the plastic and the clips and all the horse shit up underneath. Alright, and we're good. This, of course, is off by a little, but that's not an issue because it does bend. Bend it to where it needs to go. And screw it right into the caliper. That's good. The radius is nice and tight, so it's not sticking out in the open where it's going to start catching objects and things. It's actually pretty compact and close to the car. I'm happy with that. I'm actually quite satisfied. Okay, repeat the same process on the other side. And as you remember, when I went ahead and marked this line, it's ready to cut. I've already got a line prepared that's going to be that right length. So let's go ahead and do the other side, and I'll come back to you when it's done. Alright, now we have our brake line on the left, which we just installed earlier, and we've got the one on the right. Follows exactly the same path. The bend up here was a little bit different. I experimented with something that, I guess it makes no difference. It's just it's not really completely congruent. It's not exactly equal, but that really doesn't matter a whole lot because, guess what? I'm going to have brakes. Now this stupid zigzaggy line that's up here, since I have my tool all broken out for it, I'm going to fix that too. And I'm going to put in a proper one that makes a turn go straight across and curves back because that annoys the crap out of me. I don't even know why they shipped a line that was that long. That's pretty stupid. But we're going to get that fixed right now. Watch me. Okay, there's my new replacement bridge that crosses over to both sides. That is ready to rock and roll. I now have completely stainless steel brake lines on this whole car. Front, rear, all the flexi lines, everything, all stainless. Stainless, stainless, stainless. Full length all the way up to the front, all stainless. All stainless up through here. Stainless. We got our flexi ends waiting here for the calipers to come back from A-Bomb 79, who's doing my machine work. And you guys, he's really awesome that he's my neighbor, and yes, he's my friend, but he's a busy man, so don't think for a second that he's letting me get away with it for free. Oh no, I'm paying for that one. You bet I'm paying for that one. That concludes this. If you thought that, crimping brake lines, well, stainless steel brake lines, is going to be just as easy as any other line, yeah, you're grossly mistaken. And I'm really glad I had that tool. I'm really glad. I was intimidated to use it because, as I said, I just didn't have a vise to clamp it in. If you're interested in a tool like this, and you do have a vise, down below in the video description, you can find a link that will take you to where you can buy a tool just like this one. So you can also crimp your Volkswagen lines. And yeah, it's kind of spendy, but after about your third or fourth set of brake lines that you put onto a car, whether it be yours or your friends, or if you have a shop, and you just want to start doing them on the cheap, you'll start saving a ton of money. Those lines, retail price for those pre-sized ones, which did not fit properly, they were a freaking mess. Those were, I think it was about $75, and you can spend a little more for that if you actually go to a different vendor. I mean, that might cost you up to $100, plus of course you got to pay your tax and shipping as necessary. But in my case, if I had just bought a roll of stainless steel line, I think I probably would have used about 20 feet of it, and it's roughly $1 a foot, so I could have taken the old steel ends off of the old brake lines that were here, sandblasted them, and put them back on. There was no reason I couldn't reuse them. Crimp everything down, and my brake line set would have cost me $20 instead of what I did. And I wouldn't have had so many lines that didn't fit right, like that zigzaggy crap that was back here, or the ones on the ends here that obviously were going to be too short because this is a custom application. But the one that really pissed me off the most is the long line that goes from front to back. And yes, it is supposed to bow around this way because your pedal cluster goes here, and it actually goes around the pedal cluster. It's not supposed to go behind it. And the reason why is there's an adjuster back there, and there's a whole bunch of moving parts, and it can't go under your brake pedal either, because if it goes underneath it, well, you might crimp it, or you might vibrate a hole through it, as we discussed before. So yeah, it actually runs up through this way, out of the bulkhead or the Napoleon's hat, on the floor, and then diagonally across, and then alongside the tunnel. But if the thing wasn't so damn long, I wouldn't have had to put the piggy tail in there. Really obnoxious that I had to do that, but it's there. And if I wasn't so intimidated to use the crimper, I actually just would have cut the end off of it and shortened it and put it back together. But anyway, with that there, if I need to pull a little slack out of it, you know, I can. So down the road, if I want to do something like add a a turning brake or something, you know, or if I just want to put a hydraulic e-brake on there for locking up the back wheels and doing stupid shit, I can actually just cut the line right here and drop one of those units right in. So anyway, with that said, I am overjoyed, really overjoyed here. And I always get really happy at the end of the day when I've made some kind of accomplishment. So as always, you guys, if you like my videos, please give them a thumbs up. You know, please comment, please share. Please go ahead and post these videos on your Facebook page or your Twitter or whatever else that you've got. It's really important that you do, because the more exposure that I get, the better, of course, YouTube is going to pay me, and the more they pay me, the more videos I'm going to make. It would be nice if I can get away from my day job. I doubt it's going to happen, especially not soon anyway. I mean, it could happen down the road, but no time soon. I do enjoy what I do here, though, and as I've watched A-Bomb, if you watched the last video, I actually did post the first video on YouTube with him in it, and just watching him from, I guess that was around 08, 09, 10, somewhere in there. It was about 8 to 10 years ago when that video went up. And then it was several years before he got on YouTube, and then very quickly, I'd say within 3 to 5 years, the guy is making a killing on YouTube, just a killing. And he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He does some really, really good work. But he did the one thing that I didn't do, and that was continue to post and post regularly. And I've been trying to get a post up just about every day, and actually, I would have got this post up yesterday had I have not had a problem with the device. I had a problem mounting it, and then it got dark, so I was just having issues with that, but that's resolved, and that was off camera, and I took care of that. But I missed a day yesterday, unfortunately, and I didn't have another video. I try to save up videos for those off days where I can just put something out. It's not a great video, but it's filler. It's just another piece to keep the stream rolling. So like I said, thanks for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Check out the Facebook group page, DuckmanCycles VW Garage. Make sure you join it. There'll be discussion of this project as well as any others, and anything else you'd like to share. Somebody this week shared their truck. It's not a Volkswagen, but they shared their truck. A lot of people in there looking for Volkswagen service, so there's other people up there that are looking for parts. You know, I welcome you to share whatever it is you got, or ask whatever question you've got, or whatever question that comes to mind. Remember, we all started somewhere, and if you're beginning with Volkswagens, you know, don't feel ashamed to ask. Really don't. We'll steer you in the right direction, and if I can't help you, somebody else will. I mean, there's almost 400 members on there right now, and it's growing faster and faster all the time. I think I just approved another 10 or something just this morning. I woke up 10. Boo! Add. Thanks, you guys, so much. If you want to email me, DuckmanCycles@duckshit.net. Once again, DuckmanCycles@duckshit.net. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.